I'm Melissa.
I'm Jillian.
And I'm David.
And we're Disabled Disney. I'm Melissa.
I'm Jillian.
And I'm David.
And welcome to today's video for Vlogust and Disney 101 is Disneyland, the early years. So we're going from when it opened in 1955 to 1979. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The opening day for Disneyland was July 17th, 1955. It cost $17 million to build. Yes, $17 million.
That's a lot of money.
So everyone thought that Walt Disney was nuts and it was going to fail and he would go bankrupt.
And look at the company now.
There may have been some truth to that.
They said nobody was ever going to want to go to a park like that. And
Well, in their defense, when it was built, it was in the middle of an orange grove out in the middle of nowhere.
he built it in 160 acres of orange groves in Anaheim, California, which was at the time in the middle of nowhere.
But now look where it is. It's in the middle of the Los Angeles metropolitan area.
Right.
Not in the middle of Los Angeles metropolitan area.
Because it is in Anaheim. It only took 7 weeks for them to have over 1 million visitors through the gates. Only 7 weeks. That is less than 2 months for them to have 1 million people go.
Take that, non-believers.
Well, you know as well as all the rest of us, haters are going to hate.
Oh, yeah.
Even in 1955.
And at that time, a one-day ticket for adults cost $1 and kids are 50 cents to get in. But you had to pay for each attraction you wanted to go on. And you could get a booklet. You could buy a booklet. And they classified them as A, B, C, and D attractions at that time. So the ones that were more popular were the D attractions. And the ones that were, maybe less popular were the A attractions. And so they ranked them based on popularity and how much they thought people were going to want to ride them. And the cost went up so like a D ticket one was more expensive than an A ticket ride. Yes.
I got a dumb question.
What?
Wouldn't it make more sense for A to be the more popular rides and D to be the less popular rides?
Well, that's not how they did it. And anyone that has ever heard about e-ticket experiences knows that when they added e-ticket experiences, which are like the roller coasters and stuff, that was the coveted and most expensive ride, and there's still some people still call them e-ticket experiences. So if you ever hear somebody referring to an attraction as an e-ticket or a D ticket, that's what they're talking about. They did a live broadcast on ABC opening day, and Ronald Reagan, the actor, co-hosted.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Because he was not yet president.
Not in 1955.
No, he was an actor at that point in time. It got really, really hot that day, and the temps exceeded 100 degrees, and the asphalt on Main Street, which had just been put down a few days prior, started to melt and turn into tar. So people were getting stuck walking on Main Street. And there had been a plumber strike right before they finished, so none of the water fountains were working.
No!
That means nobody could wet down their cooling towel.
They didn't have cooling towels back then, but more importantly, nobody could get water to drink. And I'm sorry, but if you've been to a Disney park, you know how important water is, especially when it hits those high temperatures.
Regardless, you still got to stay hydrated.
Right.
All joking aside, yes, I know they didn't have cooling towels in 1955.
But
but yes,
they didn't have water fountains.
And I'm sure they knew in 1955 how important it was to stay hydrated and how important water was for your body.
And they had 28,154 people there. They were only expecting 15,000 because it was an invitation-only event. But somebody counterfeited a bunch of tickets and sold them to people. And so everyone over the 15,000 had counterfeit tickets. And so they had way more people there than they had planned on. The refreshment stands and the restaurants all ran out of food like almost immediately. So they had no food, no water. A lot of the rides were broken down.
Sounds to me like they were about to close.
The Rocket to the Moon ride was broken down. Peter Pan was broken down. Dumbo was broken down. And
Casey Jr.?
Casey Jr. broke down. Dumbo didn't end up opening till a while later because of how severe it broke down. And traffic was backed up for so many miles on the freeway that people were already baked and roasted in their cars before they even got there because of how many people were going.
Sounds to me like
due to counterfeit tickets.
Sounds to me like they're about to close.
I also found this story that Sleeping Beauty Castle almost caught on fire because of a gas leak. They ended up having to close Adventureland, Fantasyland, and Frontierland for a few hours in the morning. And Walt didn't find out about it until the next day because he was so busy, nobody told him until the next day. The Sleeping Beauty Castle almost burned down on opening day.
Yeah, and I have a feeling the conversation outside of his office the next morning was, you got to tell him. I don't want to tell him. No, we got to tell him. You need to tell him. I'm not going in there and telling him that his park almost burnt down on opening day.
I want to know who ended up telling him.
In the first month of operation, the stagecoach ride in Frontierland was discontinued because it was found to be top heavy and it was prone to flipping over. So I guess it was having a lot of breakdowns and flipping over. They had a circus back then, and a tiger and panther from the circus parade broke loose and fought on Main Street. They fought each other, the tiger and the panther, on Main Street. Now,
Kind of makes me wonder who won.
I don't know. The story I read didn't say anything about who won, but I know there have been a few fights in Disneyland lately. So think about that with a tiger and panther. Just saying.
That would have gotten 1 million views on YouTube.
Oh yeah, definitely, easily. Can you imagine if everyone had a phone back then with a camera? Almost all 36 cars on Autopia were wrecked, and a majority of them that first opening day because there was no track back then. It now has a track.
Gee, I wonder why.
So, on opening day, the attractions that were there is Autopia, the Disneyland Band, the Disneyland Railroad Main Street Station, the Disneyland Railroad Station that is at New Orleans Square now, Jungle Cruise, King Arthur's Carousel, Mad Tea Party, Main Street Cinema, the Mark Twain, which I also found a story that the Mark Twain sank because they overfilled the boat. And then when they finally got it up and brought it back to the dock, people were so panicked to get off that they ended up capsizing at the dock because of the rush to get off. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, one of my favorites, and Peter Pan's Flight, which is my favorite. But again, Peter Pan's Flight kept breaking down. Snow White's Scary Adventure and the Storyland Canal Boats, another one of my personal favorite attractions.
By the way, the Mad Tea Party, if you don't know exactly what it's called, it's always commonly referred to as teacups.
The teacups, the spinny cups. Casey Jr. and Dumbo were also open briefly, but they broke down, and so Casey Jr. officially opened on July 31st, 1955. And Dumbo officially opened August 16th, 1955 because of how they broke down.
That's 10 days after my birthday!
That is. The attractions that
But
opened next.
5 years before it.
This is true.
June of 1956, Tom Sawyer's Island opens. July 1956, the Frontierland canoe boats open. July 1957, the shooting exposition opens. June of 1958, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland opens. June of 1958, the Columbia sailing ship officially opened.
Which we still have to go on.
January of 1959, the Dapper Dans had their very first performance.
Oh, I love the Dapper Dance.
June 59th, the monorail opened.
Okay, so I would have loved to have been there for the conversation with this one as well. Prior to a VIP getting on the monorail, it had not made it all the way around the track without either breaking down or catching on fire. So
You
somebody
heard that right. Catching on fire.
So somebody thought, hey, the best way to entertain our VIP, Richard Nixon, was to stick him on the monorail and send him around the track. Again, had not made it all the way around the track without breaking down or catching on fire. The first time it made it all the way around was when Richard Nixon wrote it.
Who was Vice President of the United States at that point in time. Also, the same day, the Matterhorn bobsleds opened. July 1963, the
thought it was the
Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room opens. July of 1965, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln opens. May of 1966, It's a Small World opens.
It's a couple days after Dad's birthday.
Yep. March of 1967, Pirates of the Caribbean opened, and that is one of the last attractions that Walt officially worked on before he passed away. August of 1969, August 9th, so 3 days after your birthday, Haunted Mansion officially opened. June of 1972, the Main Street Electrical Parade started. And if you don't know, currently right now it's back at Disneyland for a limited run during the summer, so check that out. May of 1977, Space Mountain and the Starcade opened. And September of 1979, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, her favorite ride, officially opened. So, Disneyland had a very colorful beginning, definitely. A very rocky start, definitely. And it was initially called the Magic Kingdom. It was called Disney's Magic Kingdom. But when they opened Walt Disney World and they named the equivalent park in Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom, people were getting confused. So they took out the Magic Kingdom and they now just call Disneyland in Anaheim Disneyland. And in Walt Disney World, the equivalent park is called Magic Kingdom.
So, honestly, with the fact that Walt's idea for Mickey came from him getting fired, it was almost kind of fitting that they would have so many problems on opening day. It was like one thing after another, the whole day. But the fact that within 7 weeks of the opening day, 1 million people had come through those turnstiles, that is a testament to how much fun people actually did have, how much they enjoyed themselves on those first few days when they were having these problems and they were getting this stuff fixed and getting this stuff taken care of. That without that, I mean, Walt was taking a big risk with this. This could have ended his whole company. Could have ended him, could have ended Roy, and it was a gamble that paid off in the end.
So the next time you go to Disneyland, don't just walk by the firehouse where Walt's apartment is above there with the light always shining. Tip your hat, wave hello, say thank you to Walt. We do, every time.
And we say goodnight,
we say
too.
thank you.
Yeah,
we say goodnight when we leave.
we always say thanks, Walt, on our way out.
He was an amazing visionary, and we would not have that magical place without him. Leave us a comment, hit that subscribe and the bell icon. Have a magical day.
Support us on Patreon for special content and Disabled Disney swag.
Make sure you check out our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest pages.
Hit that subscribe and bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video.
We really appreciate the likes, comments, and subscribes. Now, check out more content from our channel by clicking in your upper right-hand corner on the next video.